Hello and welcome again to another Krita tutorial. In this tutorial you will learn a lot of different things about selections, and I will start with very fundamental topics like the available selection tools and where and how you can use them. Then we will talk about modifying selections, transforming selections. These are more intermediate topics. There's different types of selections, and then we'll also talk about some advanced topics like the locking of the alpha channel, how you can create soft selections, and finally how you can convert selections to shapes to further modify the selection outlines and reshape them and then convert these shapes back to selections. So let me start with the available selection tools. They are all located here on the left in the toolbar, the lower part, and you see we have a total of 8 different selection tools. And to see the name of the currently selected tool, I just click here on the toolbox and you see right now we have selected the rectangular selection. The rectangular selection works relatively easy. You just click anywhere on your picture and then you drag the pen of your tablet or the mouse to create the selection outline and you release it to finish the selection. Very similar, the circular selection, in the same way you click anywhere in your picture, drag the mouse, and here you can also change the direction of the elliptical selection. First of all, by clicking on the Alt key while you are still in the selection mode, you can move the selected outline. And if you keep the Alt key pressed and also click the Control key, you can also change the direction of this elliptical selection. And when you have finished with your selection process, you just release your pen or your mouse, and then you have your final selection. The next one is the polygonal selection tool. This can be useful if you have a complex object which can't be selected with any of the other tools, and you can use this manual approach. Just start by clicking anywhere on the outline of the object that you want to select, and then continue to click until you have finished your selection process, for example like this, and you go back to the first or initial point of your selection to close the selection, and then you have selected your outline. The next one is the freehand selection, which allows you to draw freely any kind of outline around any portions of your image, like this, for example. That can be also useful. The next one is the continuous area selection tool. This is very useful because it does most of the things automatically. You just click anywhere on your image. For example, let's assume we want to select the entire red area here. Let me just zoom in a little bit. You just click anywhere on this red area to start with the selection process, and here you see it did not select everything, so you just click the Shift key to extend the selection. You can click on this area and it will continue to select pixels with a similar color, and you see that all of these pixels are connected. The next tool is kind of similar. This is this one here. It's called similar color selection. The difference is that this will find all colors which are similar of the one that you are clicking on. So for example, let's say we want to again select these red colors here. I just click here and it will find the red area here. It will find a similar area here with the similar color, and this one as well. So this will actually find all of the similar colors in the entire image. And I can do this again, for example, for this blue area. Just click on the area and it will find the pixels here. It will find it in this area. So all similar colors in the entire image. The next one is the Bezier curve selection tool, which can be used to create a round outline of your selected area like this. You just click anywhere, keep the pen or your left mouse button pressed while you define the initial direction of your selection. Then you release the pen or the left mouse button, and then you click anywhere as to select the next point. Keep the pen pressed to again define the direction of the next section of your curve, and this way you can create a very smooth round outline. And to finish this, you just click again on the starting point. The next one is the magnetic selection tools. This is this one here. This can be useful if you have distinct outlines of certain areas in your image, like in this example here for the circle and the triangle. You just start by clicking anywhere on the border of such an area, and then you continue to click along the border like this. And it will automatically find the corresponding outline. You can also press Shift Z to undo the last selection point, like this. And we can continue. In some cases, it takes a little time until it finds the outline after you click. And you can continue to click until you have your outline. And to finish the selection, you just press the Enter key. So next question is, how can you move the outline of your selections or the content of your selections? That means the selected pixels. These are the two options that you have. Let's start with the selection outline. Let's assume we do just a normal rectangular selection. After you have selected the rectangular area, you just move the mouse or the pen over this area. You see that the cursor turns into this arrows, and then just press the mouse, keep it pressed and move it, or press the pen and keep it pressed and move it, and that allows you to move the selection outline. If you also want to move the contents of the selection, so for example, let's say we select a portion of that image here. Once again, by moving over the selection outline, we just move the outline, but we can also move the content. This can be done with the Move tool. This is this one here. Just click on this tool. Again, you get these arrows, which look a little bit different. They are a little bit larger, these cursor arrows. And then you can start to move the whole area, including all of the pixels that you have selected. Whatever you do, you can always press the Control Z to undo the last operation. There are also two different display modes for selections. So for example, if I have this rectangular selection, here you see the ends display mode. That means this dotted or dotted outline of the selection. And you can also change this by clicking on this icon here on the lower left. And then you see all of the unselected area is always displayed in red. And the selected area has the original color, like in this example, black. And you can also switch between these two selection modes. Click here again, and you see this dotted outline again. So these are the two ways to display your current selection. You can also display the global selection as a separate layer in your layers mask. What is this good for? First of all, let me do this. This can be enabled by going to Select, Show Global Selection Mask. And now you see we have an additional entry here in our selection, in our layers, which is called Selection Mask. And if this layer is selected, you can just paint into the selection mask to modify the current selection. So for example, let's say we have a rectangular selection like this. You can go to the selection mask. You see this selected area here, which is the original color. And now we can select a brush, for example, a round brush, and extend the selection by just clicking or drawing in the selection mask like this. You see right now I'm extending the selection, so we have the original rectangular selection plus anything that I have drawn in and with my brush, and I can switch back to some other paint layer, and you see also this selection outline has changed like this. So this is useful. The selection mask is useful if you want to use any of the drawing tools in your any of the pencils to modify the current selection mask, and we will talk about this later on when we talk about soft selections. Next question is how you can modify existing selections. So for example, let's say we have selected a rectangular area like this. You can add an additional area to this by just keeping the Shift key pressed and select the next rectangular area like this. And you see in the result we have a combination of both. You can also subtract a rectangular area. Just click the Alt key on your keyboard and then do the next selection, and we will subtract the portion which is inside the already existing selection. If you don't want to move or use the modifier keys, you can also use the action buttons here to define the current selection mode. So for example, we can have, by default, we have the replace mode. That means wherever you click to do a new selection, this will replace everything which is currently selected. So you start by scratch. You can also use this intersect mode. That means if you now select an additional area, it will only select everything that is overlapping between these two rectangular areas. This would be this part here. This is the intersection. You can add to an existing selection with this add mode like before, so you don't need to press any modifier key for this. You just continue to select to add new selections here. Then we have the subtract mode. And by the way, this works also with any other tools. So here I can now subtract a circular selection. And then we have this option here, which is the symmetric difference. And honestly, I'm not sure what this is all about, but might be also useful in some cases. Next topic is transforming selections. So for example, let's assume we have selected this area here and this one, and we just want to move the entire selection. This is a transformation. You just click on the transform tool, and then you can move everything, and you can also rotate it or scale it like this. So this is one thing. The other question is how can you modify the selection outline without modifying the content of your selection. So let's go back to the original image. To move the selection outline, you just click on the selection mask, and then again you click on the transform tool, and now you can click on your image and move the current selection outline around. You can also rotate it, scale it as you like. And this will only modify the selection outline, but not the content, the original content of your selection. So you see the original image is unchanged, but we have only transformed the selection outline. So this, once again, can be done by clicking on the selection mask and then clicking on the transform tool and then starting to modify the selection mask. Krita also supports different selection modes. Especially we have the vector selection and the pixel selection, also called raster selection. Let me show you the difference. Let's assume we do a circular selection. By default, this would always be a vector selection, which means I can zoom into this picture and it will still maintain this perfectly round shape. But I can also convert this to a raster selection by clicking here on the select menu and then convert to raster selection. And now you see it will actually select each individual pixel. So if I zoom further in, Krita will also show me the areas of the individual pixels. So this is the difference between these two types of selection modes. In one case, you have a vector outline which is relatively smooth, and you can zoom in and it will still maintain its shape. But the raster outline will always select individual pixels. Next topic is the usage of the alpha channel of your current paint layer to be sure that you only modify existing pixels on your current paint layer. Let me show how you can use this feature. Let's assume we have our paint layer here, and let me show you what we have on our paint layer. I just hide the background layer, and you see we currently have only this portion here with pixels and this portion with pixels. The rest is basically transparent. And this, by the way, is a reference image. I can move this out of the way with this tool here. So actually we have these areas here on our current paint layer. Let's assume we want to modify some of these pixels. Then we can just, or let me first of all show the effect when I don't lock the alpha layer. Let's assume I draw on the current paint layer by selecting the layer and then selecting a brush. This would modify everything which I paint on. But if I want to limit the effect of the brush to the existing pixels, that means to my red circle here, I can also enable or lock the alpha mask, and then everything I'm drawing will stay within the existing pixels on my current paint layer. So now you see that I'm only drawing inside this red circle and the triangle here. And this can be very useful if you want to modify existing pixels, for example, lighten certain portions of your image, for example, like this, or any kind of other modifications of the existing pixels on your current paint layer. Next, I would like to show you how you can create a soft selection. By default, you always have a hard selection. That means you have a very distinct selection outline. For example, if I do a circular selection like this and draw on that selection border, then you will have either pixels drawn, everything which is inside the currently selected area will be drawn, but anything outline will not be drawn, and this is a very sharp, distinct outline. So for example, if I start drawing here, you see I only draw until I reach this selection outline. But it's also possible to create a soft selection and a soft transition between the outer area and the inner area of my selection. Let me show you how I can do this. Just undo the current drawing. I just go on the selection mask, and now I can use a soft eraser tool to create a smooth outline by just erasing this border here and make it look smooth like this with the soft eraser tool. So this gives me a smooth outline. Also here on the lower part, I switch back to my paint layer. It still looks like a hard selection outline, but in reality it's a smooth outline. And now if I start painting again with my hard brush, you see inside the selected area that there are very distinct borders here, but as soon as I start to cross the outline, it becomes a smooth drawing. That means the outline is actually a smooth, creates a smooth transition between the selected area and the unselected area. And this is how you can create soft selections. Last but not least, you can also convert selection outlines to shapes to further modify these selections. For example, let's say we have a circular selection like this. Then we can convert this to a shape by clicking the select menu, convert to shape. And now on the vector layer that is created, you can modify that shape. For example, let's zoom in a little bit. We click here on the edit shape tool. And now we can select the shape. For example, we could insert another control point here and or move the existing control point handles, for example, to change the form of the shape. So there are different ways you can modify this. And after you have refined the shape, you can convert it back to a selection. Again, go to the select menu and select convert shape to vector selection. And now if I hide my vector layer, you see we only have the selected outline, the modified selected outline. So this is a way you can refine any kind of selection. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, then please click on the like button, and I hope to see you in another tutorial again.